So welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for May 8th, 2023. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
Yeah, there was a new Node 20 release yesterday. That was Marco's first release, and that was pretty well done. We are discussing. There was a small number of commits that made it into the release that probably shouldn't have. So we're currently discussing that in the release group. There may be a revert coming to address that, but yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other announcements people have to share? Okay, if not, the next section is the CPC and board meeting updates. Matteo, I don't know if you have any updates as our board and CPC rep.
Fortunately, I was not able to attend the latest board meeting. Okay, so there was a shift in the date, and I couldn't make myself free. However, the major point for us was the SQLite license, and I think there was some time window that the board was needed for deliberating on the topic and searching all the outputs from legal. I think that was the major update.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the issues tagged for the regular agenda. As I mentioned to most of the people who were on before we started, we're going to just reserve 10 minutes to go through those initial issues, because we have 20 minutes where we're going to discuss with Robin a new funding proposal, and then we're going to have a private section to hopefully get an update on the security audit that was done. So just keep that in mind. You know, I think a number of these issues, I think it would be good to put on, we can go through quickly just to make sure, like, if they're FYIs, people know and start thinking about them, but we should really limit the discussion because we won't only have that 10 minutes. The first issue is tools change inactive limit to 9 months. I think that one actually, the vote closed and it was defeated. So that one has been closed, with us keeping the inactive limit at 12 months, I think is the outcome I saw. Please anybody correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Okay. Limit. The next one, add experimental web storage. I don't know if there's any updates or quick things that we should mention on that one.
No, I think we're still waiting for the outcome of that discussion that Matteo mentioned about the license for SQLite.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, the next one is the ambassador program. I put this on the agenda as an FYI, so we don't necessarily need to discuss it, but this is a program out of discussions in the next 10 and the deep dive we did on advocacy. It does include the TSC approving ambassadors that we would put forward, as well as some asks in terms of like their tweets being retweeted under certain conditions and all that. So just really have it on the agenda as an FYI to think about this, and we can please jump into the issue. We can discuss if there's any concerns. And I'll leave it on the agenda till next week in case we want to discuss it there as well.
Can you promote, Antoine?
Yep. Okay, thank you. There. Okay, the next one is package maintenance installation approach viewpoint. I actually just added that. There'd been some work by the package maintenance team to discuss like the approach that we think makes sense for installing Node package managers and sort of the bootstrap pieces. I opened that issue just with the reference to a PR that landed in the package maintenance repo. It includes a proposal to update the website to sort of align with the proposed installation viewpoint. Again, just meant to get people, make sure that TSC is aware and starts thinking about it, comments if there's any issues with the approach. And I think like the idea would be good is to like for people to consume it and then think like how that affects our discussion on the core pack issues. Because like depending on the view that you have in terms of like the best way to install, that might affect whether or not or not whether or not, but more like how core pack fits into that overall story. The next one is the one that we will cover in the private section, according to the Node.js security audit report finalization. The one after that is May is the month for TSC elections. I opened that a week ago just to say, hey, this is the month that we have the TSC elections. I propose an approach which is the same as we've done past years. I haven't seen anybody suggest anything different. That's electing a chair and a co-chair. Or vice chair, I think. So since I haven't heard any comments or suggestions otherwise, the sort of nomination process will open this week, and people can jump into the issue there. The collaborator spotlight proposal, I think that one we can probably take off the agenda. You know, it's been on the agenda in terms of making sure that there was awareness. We left it on to say like it's now the proposal has been documented. Proposals have started to come in. So Kylie has told me that we've started to get some proposals. We agreed that, you know, we would batch those up. So we don't necessarily just review the first one, but like, I think it'll be another couple of weeks once we have a good batch from the first month. Then we'll bring that to the TSC and we'll figure out which one we want to promote first for the first quarter.
Something important is for if we can get Kylie or somebody else to monitor when we are out, and maybe schedule something recurring every quarter so that we have, you know, a quarter thing or a reminder to do it. I don't know, something like that, because
you mean an out like we don't have enough nominations anymore to say like remind people to nominate, or is that the
yes, exactly. Like it's if we don't keep on the agenda, we will not nominate people. Okay.
Right.
So it might be that it's a strategic initiative or something like that that stays on the agenda full time or something. Okay. Or we just put it in the template on the agenda. I don't know, some reminder to do this, because otherwise I have a feeling that we will forget.
She said that there are several awesome nominations, so good to hear.
Yeah, definitely good. I think a good point, Matteo. And I don't know whether you think like like when we publish them each quarter, we could also then say, please open a new issue that's like the reminder, or like you said, we could just put in the template for the meeting, reminder, please nominate. I don't know which we think would be most effective, like a new issue that would pop up on thing, or just the regular reminder.
Either one of your magic recurring issue for every month or something. Might be
much
good.
easier would be to just put something into the template for the existing. Yeah, okay. That's easy to do. I can put a new line in somewhere. So let's do that.
If we just put a new line there, that's probably the best one for now. Then let's see if that works. If it doesn't, we can decide to do something different.
Okay, sounds great. So the next one is 805, which is certify safe. I think Matteo, you, if I remember, commented on that one at least. You want to?
Well, right now, if in order to run CI, somebody needs to approve the PR first, slowing significantly us down, because you cannot use that label on the first run up until somebody has reviewed it.
Right.
So instead of opening a PI, otherwise you need to go into ci.nodejs.org and opening it up manually, which it's pretty bad from my point of view. In terms of usability. So I don't know. This is my take. I think it should be reverted, and or something different design, but I don't know what the difference is. So I recommend reverting it, designing something that actually can handle the difference between collaborators and non-collaborators and so on and so forth, and handle this case. Essentially, you want, if it's a collaborator putting it that label, it's done in CI, fine. If it's not, nope. But putting it at that point doesn't work for me.
Right. Okay, so yeah, in keeping with like, let's just make people start thinking about that. We'll leave it on the agenda to discuss again next time. I see Paulo has your hand. You have your hand up.
Just a question. Why did we introduce that change to certify safe on the label? What was the reason for the change?
It was the following thing on the agenda, which was that oh, sorry. It was because it's not just collaborators who can label PRs. So triages can also request CIs, or they used to be able to. And I think it's all caught up in that. I think, the reasons were sound. It may be an overreaction, or at least maybe, it's gone a bit too far in that. I think it just warrants more discussion and on what the right balance between the checks and user ease of running.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, so everybody, if you can think about it, dive into that issue, and we'll leave it on again for next time. And I guess this, as Richard just mentioned, it might be related to allowing the request CI label for collaborators in unapproved PRs. I guess it's like,
well, they're both addressing the current issue, which is a collaborator cannot add the label without the PR being approved, and that was the change made recently. So that both of those issues are trying to get back to a behavior that was possible previously.
okay. Okay, so we can just think about those and figure out the right answer. Yeah.
On that subject, I have a PR open to check who's added the label. So if folks want to review that and maybe help me write the test, that would be great.
Okay, so that would basically check the label and allow collaborators to add it.
So the way it works on the PR is it first checks if the PR has been approved, and if it has not, it checks who added the label. And yeah, would start the CI only if it was a collaborator.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so I think at this point we've made it quickly through the agenda, and we're right about our 10 minutes, which is great. So let's hand it over to Robin to take us through the new funding opportunity.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. We have a new funding opportunity that's coming in hot from the US government. Thanks, folks, for flagging. Mateo, I had several folks flag, thinking this might be the right opportunity for Node. Let me just jump right into it. Okay. It's essentially a public-private grant originating from the US government, and you might think about it as similar to the Sovereign Tech Fund. Although, again, this has support from some private entities as well. If you take a look at their advisory council, Fiona from the Sovereign Tech Fund is on the advisory board. Fiona is also on our board of directors. And as such, this is sort of modeled after the STF. It's a service agreement, not a grant. So you'll see when we talk about the programs, we have to be very specific about what we're proposing and what we're delivering, and all of the reporting that goes around that. As you can see, they're only going to support up to 4 open source projects globally. Hopefully we stand a great chance given the impact of this project. And if you take a look at up to $400,000 for 24 months, that would be about $15,000 a month for a project like ours. And if you look at the evaluation criteria, I think the most important point is that we have to cover both a technical program and a social program. So I'm going to jump into it. And what I'd really want to hear from you all is how you think we should prioritize we have someone who needs to be promoted, Michael? We've got that. How we want to
Yeah, thanks.
prioritize our proposal. Let's see. Also important note, the deadline is next Friday. So essentially there's several key areas that I'll cover off, but primarily the problem statement. I can cover this in more detail, given some of the other grants that we've successfully written and applied to, about you all truly are mostly a community-led project. We have very little folks working on this on company time, unfortunately. So I want to take a look at some of the programs that you would want to prioritize, any new funding that you would receive. And as you can see, it's, you know, if you were proposing a service contract, we will need a detailed scope of work, objectives, activities, and deliverables. This is what we provided the Sovereign Tech Fund. It was like an 18-page proposal, very detailed monthly invoicing on our proposal. I think we can handle that as long as we sort of narrow down where we want to prioritize those dollars. So, you know, I threw down some categories that I thought might be options. Michael added one this morning, but I'm going to sort of open up the floor and start perhaps with the technical scenarios. If you were to have budget, where would you want to invest that spend?
I think one thing to add might be when I read through it was either on your slides here or somewhere else, but it's like it's not a new features thing, right? Like this is a keep the project running versus build new things. So it does need to be in the infrastructure, or like that's the key thing, just before people start to come up with ideas. Not like add feature acts, it's something to keep the project going.
Yes.
I guess my concern there, though, is that if this is a finite, time limited resource, what happens? Yeah, I think I saw it on the other slide. You know, can the project sustain itself once that runs out? You know, if we make ourselves dependent, or you know, that resource is used to plug some sort of critical function in the project, and then the project becomes reliant on that, then what happens when that goes away? I think that's my concern, especially with the technical areas. At least, you know, the two that I'm more familiar with, build and release. Those are kind of things that, you know, while they are critical, it's kind of like, you know, we've always had the people that are in those that have volunteered, they're known to the project, they're trusted, and we kind of feel that they are likely to stick around. And that's, you know, completely different from, you know, I don't know how we would spend that funding in those areas and for what. If it, you know, it's one thing if it was transformational work, like with the Sovereign Tech Fund, some of the stuff we're doing, it's kind of like we would like to change some things, and hopefully the things that are being changed means that, you know, the burden on the project itself will be less once that work is completed. But I mean, this sounds like it would be something slightly different. You know, if it's not, if this is plugging a gap rather than, you know, trying to avoid future ongoing maintenance, I guess.
That was also the criteria for the Alpha Omega grants on security. And year after year, they say we need to, you know, sustainability, you need to work yourselves out of a paid job. Raphael's done a really great job. We started what was from zero, essentially, with the growing the security working group. So, you know, there's that. More funding will come in, hopefully, through some other programs.
I think like that's why I was like testing. I think I don't have too many concerns over that, but I think we could have a bit of the same story, and that like our CI is in terrible shape. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Like it would be nice if it passed much more easily. We have lots of flaky tests, so there's like solid technical work to be done on fixing the flaky tests. But at the same time, I think there could also be work to sort of reinvigorate, build a testing working group, kind of like, you know, Raphael coming in and being dedicated to look at security. He's reinvigorated the security working group. There's more people involved. So like doing that for 2 years on the testing front, hopefully positions us at the end of those 2 years in a better position, right?
I think honestly, anything that improves the daily life of Node.js contributors, plus the way we ship releases. For instance, currently the CTM is not in a good shape, and this is a very important feature. So we can measure impacts of releases. We can release more often, and we can also check, okay, this will break this specific package, so let's ping then, or let's fix it. So this is something that it's in a really bad shape, but I don't know if something that we need to take like 2 years of work. Usually it should be once we have a good design, it shouldn't take too long.
I think so. That's like another good one that fits in with the testing theme of like, hey, we could fix Sijum, get that to a point where it's a better tool, like you said, to use for releasers, as well as like burn down our flaky tests, reinvigorate a working group, hopefully like find the people who are interested in that stuff. I don't know. It seems like there's a good chunk of work to be done there. And I guess, Robin, you're saying like it would be partially technical, partially social. So that wouldn't necessarily be all of the effort. The other thing too is I don't know if we'd have the opportunity to try and maybe build up a program where we could use some of the funding to support people to like not just have the one person we hire do all the flaky test fixing, but sort of build up a program where we can pay people to do that some of that work, right? We've had discussions where it's like, how do companies support work in the project, and like maybe we could build up like another crowdfunding account where money goes in and then people actually can apply to get paid out of that for fixing tests, like flaky tests. I don't know, but like, having the person who's the person who would be, we could have somebody who's hopefully funded enough time to be able to focus on that. But I'm just saying maybe we don't need to have that be it's not 100% full-time job necessarily at it. I don't know the flexibility though. Robin, you probably might have a better idea.
No, we can shape it however we, see fit. So, yeah.
One of the proposal I have is to look at how we can utilize this funding opportunity to help end users in the Node.js ecosystem who are using the technology and finding problems either in the way of usability or configuration or anomaly at runtime, what sort of things, which are usually reported through the Node.js core repo as bugs or issues, or to the help repo as usage assistance. We know the state of affairs in both these backlog has been pretty concerning. That's because people who help end users are doing it in a voluntary manner with sparse bandwidth and availability. So the health of the backlog solely depending on the people availability and willingness to help, etc. So if we can have some dedicated people or some programs that can run through this, that can potentially align to the spirit of open source projects, and we being one of the leading open source projects can set some precedent about how we are doing free support or free help to the ecosystem. And then how do we sustain beyond 2 years is something like we institute this program, and along with that, parallelly, we could also document some of the learnings, best practices, and the patterns that are coming through these repos, through the issues that are reported, and see how that can be reused beyond 2 years in a maintainable manner with low overhead.
Something that throwing options up there. Okay, there is a few things. So this was mentioned at the end, which is docs. Okay, and there was this season of docs proposal that was already done. Okay, and something very similar to some extent could be set up for Undich as well. I was trying to get that funding, but that we decided to only submit one proposal from OpenJS. I think both those things could be, like there could be a big docs team, like our docs needs a lot of work, okay? So because of that, that can be very helpful. So I absolutely support having a docs line in there to help and complement what was done by Claudio, what is spreading by Claudio and Ethan. Something that it's actually very interesting, okay? Could we potentially use some of this money to host or support running a few old code and learn things? This is a question for the group. Okay, this is something that I don't know. What do you think?
There was always so much interest at the Grace Hopper event, but having something more yearly might make some of those potential new contributors a little more sticky, right? And stay throughout the year. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the next 10, certainly like building collaborators and stuff is part of the focus for this year. So something around growing collaborators, you know, it fits in with that and what Matteo just mentioned.
To be honest, I would not. One of the, I know that this might be throwing something out, but we need to improve our diversity, right, in the collaborators group. So a good way to do that might be using part of this money in this form. I don't know how anyway. Like this is probably something that the project needs, okay? And I don't know how to support it, so it might just be that we need to do some tied to some scholarship, tied to some crowdfunding. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas, but this is, I think it would be a good opportunity to potentially attract collaborators from a more varied background than what we usually have.
Yes,
So how do we
any
move?
other suggestions on that people have? Like if somebody said, hey, I'm full-time on Node, what would we, what does the TSC want them to do? What would we point them at in terms of fixing our, like doing work that will help the project?
Or to have time, maybe.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just picking a
Right,
number.
exactly,
Like I don't.
exactly.
I'm just saying we got people who will basically say what's our top priority? What do you want us to do, right?
We could do like a vote of prioritization between TSC members, like what they think it's better, and then we take the order suggested, and then we can create the service of work. Because if we have different opinions or different topics, would be hard, right?
I don't think we have time for such a long process.
Yeah.
I think
what
we
is the
need
deadline?
17th of May.
Yeah, next Friday, this coming Friday, or not, yeah, a week from Friday. And I think we found with the Sovereign Tech Fund, you give yourself enough wiggle room, right? To update it and customize it once you're awarded the program, but I think clearly outlining the problem area and programmatically how you would want to solve that, I think is the approach I'll take on writing it.
And sort of like, so it's like, are there any other, like, yeah, I agree with Matteo. We don't have time to like create an issue, wait a week for answers and stuff. It's like, what ideas do we have now? And then can we kind of, are those a set of ideas that will fit into the proposal and that we all kind of think seems reasonable enough?
My top of mind definitely is the fixing CI, SitGim, right? Like having someone a steward for the build, like you mentioned, Michael. I think that's the most pressing thing, like from at least someone who's in the release working group, like major point whenever working on new releases.
I definitely think the testing would benefit the most.
Yeah,
The most members of the project, including release, but also just the general collaborator base.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I just saying I agree, like trying to get through a PR is, I think we could make a significant benefit on that side.
Yeah, and obviously diversity, this group has sort of been trending in the wrong direction on diversity. So I think we need maybe have a working session on that, just with or without the funding.
Yeah, absolutely. But on how can we use the funding to help with that? I don't know if you have some ideas on how to do that. I think we can be all ears from at least I'm, to be honest, it's how can we use that opportunity to support it? This is a question on how.
Yeah, I mean, I do think representation matters. So hiring someone from a diverse background to lead an outreach or learning program might be, a good step. And we can perhaps wrap in, again, we do have a free node training. We're launching free security training. We do have our experience with Grace Hopper. So programmatically, we have, I think, a number of pieces, but to sort of package it up with a real person focused on it might help.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like you have a better chance of approval if you have both a technical part and a social part, right? And so I think, like, for my very quick 20-minute read, it would be great if we said, like, on the technical side, we want to focus on testing and have the person spin up this new group and do all these things. And then on the other side, on the social side, we want to help build collaborators in some ways, and with one particular aspect of that being the diversity, pull the diversity part into, as you build the collaborators, hopefully we need new people to address that issue. So building the collaborators helps, and we can figure out how to support that.
I have one last question, Robin.
Yeah.
Is there any restriction on where that money can be spent? Like, I know this is the government agency, so sometimes it needs to be spent on the US.
We haven't experienced that with, and I didn't see any restrictions in the documentation I read. So, and we haven't experienced that with Germany as well. So,
cool.
They're contracting with us, I think, not the end user, or not the contractor that we hire to execute.
Yeah,
like in one way we might combine them is if, like, we have this focus on testing, can we hire like some shorter term interns or support some shorter term interns to do some of that work, right?
Yeah, I like that idea.
That could also help with diversity, by the way.
Right. I was thinking, like, the interns we select, we can do that in a way to support that.
Good stuff. Well, I'm going to be folding this into a Word document or a Google Doc that I have started, and happy to share that out to you folks to take a pass in the next day or two.
Yeah, if you need help putting that together, I'd be happy to work on this one with you.
Yeah, some of the other pieces, I believe I have I have a lot of this already. The dependencies piece, I think I mentioned, is something where I'll need help. We have like word limits, either 500 or 1,000 words, depending on which question. So, and I found when you're on the receiving end of applications, brevity is always best anyhow, so.
I guess I'm hoping some of those ones you already have from the previous.
I do. In the contributors and how the organizational, Matteo, I have your deck, you've presented on that, so I'll borrow from some of your
Take
content.
whatever you need. If you need more sources, more data, more stuff, just let me
Got
know.
it, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, finger crossed if we can get it. This would
And
be
toes.
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that'd definitely be good.
Yeah.
it would be huge. Be huge. You know, it's getting some money there for some stuff, for some, you know, for some stuff. It's really solid. So I'm can't wait for seeing that. Cool.
Okay, thanks all.
Perfect.
Okay, unfortunately, I haven't connected with the person who was gonna do the update for during this in the private section, so we may not have one. Did people have other private business for us to discuss?
I think we can still go for that item. I think Rafael has access to all the
Okay.
details.
Okay,
I don't know. What do you
so
think, Rafael? I think there is Moshe. Oh, no, Moshe was promoted. Okay, sorry.
You mean that I have access to the report from Amir?
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, okay. You don't. Fine. Then
They said that they will share when it's done, but I didn't receive anything yet. The only thing we have received from them is the HackerOne reports that are not applicable.
right, okay, so I guess sounds like we need Amir to be able to do that one. Any other private business? Okay, if not, I guess I'll reconnect with Amir and we'll figure out, maybe it'll be next week. Otherwise, we do have a few more minutes now. If there's any other topics that we want to cover, otherwise we can give people a bit of time back. Okay, well, if not, thanks for everybody's time and we will see you in GitHub and next time. Bye.
Thanks all.
bye. Bye.
Bye.